again, everyone. We're going to kick away right away, and just to welcome the extra people who have joined us from Cape Town, Zimbabwe, Bulawayo as well. You are welcome to the call. And once again, we are so privileged to have an opportunity to talk about something that I consider a very serious issue. And a lot of people will agree with me on that. So just before I start, I will just introduce myself. My name is Ziggy Owei, and I'm coming to you from Cape Town. Today will not be about knowing who I am in detail, but if you look at the screen in front of you, this news just came out. On top of it, I wrote there, pay attention. Pay attention, because that is one thing a lot of us fail to do in this age and time that we are rushing through life and just struggling, to make ends meet. You can see former Miss USA jumps to her death from New York City skyscraper. What will make a beautiful young girl like this do something like that? And the point is, if you look at today's topic, it says identifying and overcoming anxiety and depression in these abnormal times. We all know in the last 2 years what we've had to go through with the pandemic, the lockdown. A lot of people have lost their loved ones. Some families, 5, 6 people in the same family. A lot of people have lost their source of livelihood. Industries completely became insignificant overnight. So you're looking at, just not becoming relevant anymore. And of course, people lost their jobs, and so much anxiety, so much stress, so much going into depression. And the most important, or the saddest part of it, or the most important thing and the saddest part at the same time, is that a lot of us walking around do not even know or realize that we're already at the brink of depression, or the early stages of depression or anxiety state. So this is really important, that this girl you see in front of your screen could have been anybody. Could have been your brother, your sister, your family member, your relative, your community person. So this call tonight is to pay attention and to also know that we can identify these signs very early on, and at the same time also have simple solutions that we can do on a day-to-day basis to help us cope with the things that lead to this state of being. So without wasting too much time, I'd like to introduce our speaker for today. And I will come back at the end to, wrap it up for us. So we'll have an amazing, amazing lady that I was introduced to. I'm, so privileged and so happy to have her on the call today. Very, very large heart, ready to volunteer to, share with us. And she's an expert in this field. She's a senior wellness specialist, and she has had her undergrad in University of Stellenbosch in Cape Town, and then went on to have a postgraduate in the Northwestern University and has a master's in social work. But most importantly, she also is the head of the employee wellness program in the Northwestern University. And so she deals with this type of thing on a daily basis. In fact, there's no other person than Bonita Mabueta, who is qualified to share about this condition. And then after that, I'll be back to wrap it up. And just to add that she also has her own practice in Klerksdorp in South Africa. So Bonita, thank you so much again for your large heart and agreeing to come on our talk. The Secret family is very, very grateful and excited to have you on board, and we welcome you and all our guests. So you take it away from here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ziggy, and thank you very much for inviting me to this presentation. It's very exciting to see that there's an international crowd that I'm talking to tonight, because I'm used to talking to South Africans and mostly academics and within the setting that I'm working in, and also, like Ziggy has indicated, I'm in a private practice. And the topic I'm talking to you today is actually a topic that I deal with really on a daily basis. And what you need to distinguish also, that in these difficult times, I think everything that Ziggy has mentioned, some lost our jobs, we lost family members, we lost friends, we gone through change tremendously fast. I don't think ever has our social functioning been so affected by one thing, one common thing, all over the world. And that is what COVID-19 has done, you know, and all the changes and all the lockdowns and all the regulations. We had to change behavior. We had to start wearing masks. We had to go vaccinate. We had to focus on our safety. And amongst all of this, life still goes on. Hey, you still have to continue with work. You still have to look after your children. You still have to look after your family, your loved ones, and after yourself. And I think the thing we neglect a lot is looking after ourselves. And that's often where we find that a case like which Ziggy has showed us now, where people unexpectedly just commit suicide, you know, and then the whole family wonders, you know, where did I miss it and why didn't I pick it up? But it's also sometimes, you know, you're so deep and in a dark place that the family doesn't pick it up because people, I can tell you, my clients doesn't show anybody, because if I get them outside on the street, they're happy-go-lucky people. When I get them in a session, different person, because then you unpack your whole, I always say people unpack their bag, you know, of issues and historical issues with a therapist, for example. So people do not, you know, wear their feelings on sleeves. So often you would miss it as a family member. But that is why we're having the session today, to identify it within yourself. And if you have a family member or a colleague or a friend or a church friend or somebody within this group that you are that has these signs and symptoms, then you can at least, you know, help such a person. So I'm here to talk about not such a happy topic, but I think we all need to be informed, because I do think all of us suffer from depression or anxiety in one stage of our life. There's no time where you can say, maybe not clinically, but there's no time where you can say, you know, you didn't feel down, you didn't feel anxious about things. So I do think it's a very, very important topic to speak about. Let me just get my sharing of my screen correctly. I'm so used to using MS Teams that I'm actually anxious about this, but I just need to get this out of the way here. There you go. So I decided to name this topic my well-being, my priority, because we need to start prioritizing ourselves. And that doesn't mean that you mustn't prioritize your family members or so, but you need to put yourself first in order to save others. Like they always say in the airplane, you know, you need to put on your oxygen mask first on before you put somebody else's on, because it doesn't help that you put the mask of everybody on around you, and then, you know, after you've reached the third person, you collapse and you faint or something. So the same with looking after yourself. We need to look after ourselves first. So firstly, what's important is to know what is depression. You know, it's more than just the blues. And I know sometimes in my culture, I know we just say, ah, Bonita is just the person who's always down, who's always you know, unhappy, or sometimes, you know, she's very, very moody and so forth. But we need to remember depression is something that affects the mind, the mood, the body, and behavior of people, as you will see later on. So some people clinically get diagnosed with depressive disorder, for example. And I want to play this video for you to just give you an idea as to, you know, what is depression and what a person feels like who is depressed. So I just want you to watch this video carefully and just listen to everything that this man says to us on this video.
I had a black dog. His name was Depression. Whenever the black dog made an appearance, I felt empty and life just seemed to slow down. He could surprise me with a visit for no reason or occasion. The black dog made me look and feel older than my years. When the rest of the world seemed to be enjoying life, I could only see it through the black dog. Activities that usually brought me pleasure suddenly ceased to. He liked to ruin my appetite. He chewed up my memory and my ability to concentrate. Doing anything or going anywhere with the black dog required superhuman strength. At social occasions, he'd sniff out what confidence I had and chase it away. My biggest fear was being found out. I worried that people would judge me. Because of the shame and stigma of the black dog, I was constantly worried that I'd be found out. So I invested vast amounts of energy into covering him up. Keeping up an emotional lie is exhausting. Black dog could make me think and say negative things. He could make me irritable and difficult to be around. He would take my love and bury my intimacy. He loved nothing more than to wake me up with highly repetitive and negative thinking. He also liked to remind me how exhausted I was going to be the next day. Having a black dog in your life isn't so much about feeling a bit down, sad or blue. At its worst, it's about being devoid of feeling altogether. As I got older, the black dog got bigger and he started hanging around all the time. I'd chase him off with whatever I thought might send him running. But more often than not, he'd come out on top. Going down became easier than getting up again. So I became rather good at self-medication, which never really helped. Eventually, I felt totally isolated from everything and everyone. The black dog had finally succeeded in hijacking my life. When you lose all joy in life, you can begin to question what the point of it is. Thankfully, this was the time that I sought professional help. This was my first step towards recovery and a major turning point in my life. I learned that it doesn't matter who you are, the black dog affects millions and millions of people. It is an equal opportunity mongrel. I also learned that there was no silver bullet or magic pill. Medication can help some, and others might need a different approach altogether. I also learned that being emotionally genuine and authentic to those who are close to you can be an absolute game changer. Most importantly, I learnt not to be afraid of the black dog, and I taught him a few new tricks of my own. The more tired and stressed you are, the louder he barks, so it's important to learn how to quiet your mind. It's been clinically proven that regular exercise can be as effective for treating mild to moderate depression as antidepressants, so go for a walk or a run and leave the mutt behind. Keep a mood journal. Getting your thoughts on paper can be cathartic and often insightful. Also keep track of the things that you have to be grateful for. The most important thing to remember is that no matter how bad it gets, if you take the right steps, talk to the right people, black dog days can and will pass. I wouldn't say that I'm grateful for the black dog, but he's been an incredible teacher. He forced me to reevaluate and simplify my life. I learnt that rather than running away from my problems, it's better to embrace them. The black dog may always be part of my life, but he'll never be the beast that he was. We have an understanding. I've learned through knowledge, patience, discipline and humour, the worst black dog can be made to heal. If you're in difficulty, never be afraid to ask for help. There is absolutely no shame in doing so. The only shame is missing out on life.
And I always thought that was such a powerful video to demonstrate to us what is depression, and that depression is much more than just, feeling down. It is where somebody can feel permanently, you feel down, sad, and so forth. As you see now, the black dog treats that guy who was speaking. So, like I'm saying, depression is just not, something you get over. People often say, just get over it. If you suffer from clinical depression, it doesn't work that way. So often the symptoms are that I've mentioned, showed you here, and I think a lot of you might know this, but you're constantly sad, you're anxious, you feel an empty mood, you just feel empty, you feel nothing. A lot of my clients describe that feeling of, I just feel nothing. People lose interest in things, as you saw there with the dog. You lose appetite, you become pessimistic, very, very negative all the time, negative about everything. And people usually with clinical depression or major depression, they often show their depression in severe negativity. So this is a sign that you can pick up if you're a friend, if you're a colleague, and this person is not generally pessimistic, and all of a sudden you see this sign of constantly everything is negative feeling, and you feel guilty when you have depression, because you feel you need to be better than this, you need to come right, and people often tell you, within your social world that just just come right, stop being like this, and so forth. And workplaces might pressurize you also, you know, because you need to perform and you need just get it right, just do your work and so forth. And worthlessness, people, lack of sleeping, as you saw on the video as well, early morning awakening, oversleeping, generally when there's not normal sleeping patterns, and normal sleeping patterns for everybody differs. I think science also showed us now that 8 hours of sleep is not for everybody. Some people can get away with 5 hours of sleep, but the thing is, you mustn't be tired when you wake up and you feel refreshed and everything. And insomnia means when you don't sleep actually and you struggle to fall asleep, you have that thing of overthinking, you know, you're thinking about the same thing and you overanalyze it and so forth. I said appetite changes, you have low energy, fatigue, feeling run down. You know, sometimes a person who's severely clinically depressed, major depression as you would know it, you know, really looks severely tired and just listless at times. Lots of clients with suicide, at least people without clinical depression also think about suicide and death thoughts at times. People who are clinically depressed, obviously, they think much more if they're in a depressive state about suicide, have death thoughts. And sometimes the suicide is being committed without even thinking about it, you know. So that's why it's so important for you as a colleague, as a friend, to be able to identify these things and say, hey, here's a warning sign. I need to maybe assist here or come in here. Restlessness, irritable, you know, with a black dog, you become moody because now you're trying to cope with your circumstances, you feel depressed, and now something extra comes onto you, like somebody's asking you just to go to a party. That irritates you because, you know, you're in survival mode. You try just to survive with this depressed feeling. Hostility, you know, always fighting with people for no good reason. Low concentration. Forgetfulness, you know, struggling to remember things and so forth. I usually think our brains are so much in survival mode that it focuses on just keeping you, you know, straight, and it's a struggle. So obviously it prioritizes you staying on the right place, and then you forget certain things. You're down for no reasons, and social relationships deteriorate. Usually people who are depressed, they isolate themselves, and usually I find that clients tell me often, you know, Bonita, when I feel so down, I'm not in the mood for people, and people ask so many questions of why you're so down and so forth. So just to keep myself sane, I just go lie in a room and isolate myself from everybody, which is not okay, you know, if it constantly happens. We also need to remember that everybody doesn't always have all of these symptoms. But if the symptoms appear for you to be, this is not okay, you know, this is not normal behavior for that person, then it's something that you should take note of. Who can get depression? Depression knows no boundaries. It's like COVID-19. Anybody can be depressed, you know, doesn't remember, irrespective of gender, age. Usually depression manifests here in adolescent stage. Some people get in late adulthood also, they start manifesting the depression, but anyone can get depression. It can be a male, it can be a female. I see a lot of males coming to my private practice and also having, you know, displaying depression symptoms and so forth. And depression affects your whole social functioning. You know, it affects your family, it affects your marriage. It affects that you do things in a funny way. Sometimes you will resort to, you know, just for survival, you resort to things to resolve it, like alcohol or drugs, or even sometimes extramarital affairs, or just an affair if you're not married. You know, it really presents itself in things that is not functional for people, because it creates so much tension and problems later on. The way you reacted to the depression after childbirth, as most of you know, postpartum depression. There's medical reasons why people get depressed. There is, you know, physiological reasons. I think you've heard of dopamine, serotonin, and cortisol, and adrenaline, and noradrenaline. If those things are not functioning well, your neurotransmitters, then then there's a great chance that you will suffer from depression. And when you have depression due to a medical reason, then it should be treated, you know, in a medical way with medication. Sometimes people have thyroid issues, and that also contributes. I, for example, have hypothyroidism, where my thyroid is very underactive, so I'm prone to get a little bit down and depressed and so forth. But I went to treat my thyroid, and now I don't get that, you know, where I feel down for no reason. But I have identified the feeling, and I said, let me go check it out. You know, what is wrong with me? And then I went for a full blood count or a full blood check, and then they figured out, oh no, my thyroid is not functioning as it should. External events like we're experiencing now, traumatic events, COVID-19, death of a loved one, any traumatic event, you know, when getting robbed, when you were hijacked, when people experience different things as traumatic, but that can also lead to the depression. Even things like depression and a heart attack is also closely linked. After people usually get a heart attack, a lot of times they suffer from depression or a stroke afterwards. Then there's genetics. If you're genetically prone, or that depression is within your family, the same with anxiety, then you can also suffer from depression, you know. Then with anxiety, you know, sometimes anxiety is also just like depression, clinically diagnosable, where you're suffering from generalized anxiety disorder or panic disorder and so forth. So you need to know with anxiety, you know, am I anxious about my current situation? Yes or no? You know, with COVID-19, am I anxious about it? Have I now moved? Because everybody's talking about this new normal, but we're never getting to this new normal. But you can also check for yourself and say, what is the new normal for me? The new normal is that I need to look after my safety a little bit more, and then go into your new normal, because the more you linger, the more anxious you can become. So create your own new normal. Figure out what feeds your anxiety feelings. You know, is it your thoughts, the way you think? Am I thinking, you know, always that bad things are going to happen? Am I thinking, do I have a negative thinking pattern? Identify it. Do you have healthy life patterns, you know, in terms of sleeping, eating, exercising and so forth? And then what also helps with anxiety is to have yourself, like I'm saying, you look after yourself, have an emotional safety plan. Because we often have, you know, lots of plans, and you will have a plan for your family, but you don't have your own emotional safety plan to say, you know, what do I need within COVID or in any circumstance to feel emotionally safe? You know, in COVID, if I wear my mask, I feel emotionally safer. If I don't get into 1 meters of contact or 1.5 meters of contact with people, I feel emotionally safer. Then you do those things that makes you feel safer and less anxious as well. So with anxiety disorder, I'm not going to go into too much detail. You get different types, which panic disorder, agoraphobia, social phobia, obsessive compulsive disorder, PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and generalized anxiety disorder. For the sake of time, the one that is the most common that we often find is it's panic attacks, and that is that feeling where sometimes you've seen it on television or experienced it yourself, where you feel you're getting a heart attack, you're losing breath, your heartbeat is going up, you feel faint that time. Some people describe that they see tingling feelings in their body, they see stars and just darkness, nausea, lightheadedness, and so forth. Fear of dying when you're starting getting a panic attack is normal. I'm just telling you these things so that you can identify that this is actually might be a panic attack that I might be experiencing. So to manage anxiety, and I didn't go into detail with all the others, but to manage anxiety, often what we do with clients is a technique, and you can Google it, is grounding. So grounding is actually a technique that makes you aware of your surroundings through your senses. So what you smell, what you feel, what you taste, what you hear. You know, so you do experience things through your 5 senses. So there's a general technique using that. For some clients that doesn't work, even if you do grounding over and over and over again during a panic attack, it doesn't work. You need to find out what works for you. you need to realize while getting a panic attack that thoughts and feelings are not harmful. It's actually sending us a false, let me say, danger situation. For example, if you know you're being bullied at work, is a good example, because you will feel fear. You will feel anxious, you know, you will feel afraid, you will feel maybe sad, you will feel angry. But remember, those feelings that you feel is not harmful, or it cannot immediately hurt you, you know, like physically hurt you. So you need to be saying, you know, I am being bullied, talk yourself through it. These feelings that I'm feeling is normal and it's okay, but it will not stab me, or it will not kill me, it will not chase me like a lion. Another thing, practical thing that you can do while you're feeling panicky and anxious is, I often tell clients, count backwards from 100 to 1. It brings your brain just back to logical functioning, so that you think from logic and no longer in the fight and flight mode when you are anxious. Like I said, thoughts and feelings are not dangerous. You need to acknowledge your feelings. We always say, name your feelings, you know, name your feelings. Say I'm sad, say I'm unhappy, say I am, say it to yourself. That's the most important, because sometimes we don't acknowledge or identify the feelings, we just act upon it. So before you act upon a feeling, if somebody disappoints you, before you show anger, say to myself, I'm disappointed. Why am I disappointed? You talk yourself through it. Don't worry about being embarrassed, because often if you have a panic attack, it often manifests as a seizure, and then people get embarrassed about it. But usually what I tell clients is, tell your family, tell the people close to you, know, this is how my panic attacks manifest and so forth. Then they know, and then they will be able to keep you safe. Focus on the present, because people with anxiety, and generally people, me as well, we like to overthink things sometimes, but focus on the here and now and live in the here and now. Also, when you're getting a panic attack, label your fear level from 10 to 0 and say, oh, my panic is now, you know, at the 8, at the 9. And as you go through, you know, the grounding or the breathing techniques that you're using and so forth, you give it then after that, reevaluate and say, okay, now it's no longer at the 9, it's now at the 5, you know, so that you can see that it is improving, and that the panic attack is not permanent. It usually lasts here. Sometimes a minute up to 3 minutes, and it feels like forever. What also helps people is snapping a rubber band against their wrist, and they have to focus on it, but not snapping to self-injure. You just snap to make your brain aware that there's something else here on my body, and that whatever you're experiencing is not the reality, the fearful thing that you're experiencing. And when fear comes, expect it and accept it. Identify what makes you anxious. That's important, because you need to also know, you know, what triggers me. Sometimes with anxiety attacks and panic attacks, there's no trigger. We always look for trigger, but there's no trigger. As a physiological reaction. So we need to treat it sometimes with medication, yes. And if you're not diagnosed anxious and you're not having a panic disorder or anxiety disorder, then identify what makes you anxious, because usually our fear or anxiety, it displays in anger, it displays in aggression towards others, or it displays in isolation. So it displays in behavior is what I'm trying to say. And that behavior usually affects people around you, and then obviously indirectly it affects you again, because if you're fighting at home with your partner, obviously your relationship won't be nice. And yes, I think you know what I mean by that. So treatment, we always say, start when you wonder, am I having depression? Am I having anxiety? First, rule out any medical reason for it. Like I told you, I have hypothyroidism where my thyroid is underactive. The moment I treated it, I was just fine, you know? So because there's a lot of medical reasons that can manifest in an anxiety or depression. So rather first go and rule out any medical reason for it. Once you've ruled it out and you say, no, there is no medical reason, then it is likely to be clinical depression or anxiety and so forth. Seek help from friends, family members, and so, and just tell them, I feel down. Don't you want to listen? You will be so surprised. A lot of times we're afraid to tell our family members especially people are afraid to tell their mothers and their fathers because they are so much older. And every time I tell a client, please tell your mom and just see, you will always get support. Unless, and there's in circumstances where you won't get support, where the circumstances are maybe not normal. But once you speak to your elders, you will see there's actually support coming your way, and not the judgment that you thought, or the people that will think you're abnormal or so. So seek, if you don't want to seek help from family because you're afraid of the judgment or reaction, and I know in some cultures, like in my culture, depression, anxiety is not an acceptable thing to have, then you will seek help from a professional. Social workers, psychologists, counselors are trained to deal with, with mental health issues. And they will refer you to wherever you need to be, if you need to be to a psychiatrist and so forth. If you are on medication, please don't stop it. If you have side effects, rather go to your doctor and discuss your side effects, and your doctor can adjust your medication, because so often people just leave the medication because they have side effects, which is not good. When do I stop using medication? The only time you stop using medication which is prescribed for depression or anxiety is when your doctor tells you to, or when they lower the medication. You don't stop on your own. Okay, I've mentioned all these things. I think for the sake of time also, I will just skip through it, and to take care of myself, like I said, the emotional safety plan. Recognize your feelings, name your feelings. That is so important. Name it, give it a name, and say, this is what I'm feeling, and say it to yourself. It's not important to say it to other people. Say it to yourself so that you know what you're dealing with, and you know, how does my behavior manifest when I have this type of feelings. Get social support. Might it be a friend? Might it be a therapist? Sleep hygiene, the way we sleep. You can go read up on healthy sleeping patterns, the way you prepare for bed makes a difference, and so forth. Get out of bed daily, even if you feel depressed. I often tell clients who are suffering from major depression also, get out of bed. That's important. Get a routine. Get out of bed, because if you stay there, it's just going to get worse. Healthy diet, avoid substances. Often we find clients with a mood disorder, because you don't understand what's going on with me, and you don't realize it's a medical disorder, it's actually a brain-based disease. Then you're treated with substances, you're treated with alcohol, you're treated with drugs, you're treated with medication sometimes, which is not prescribed. So rather go to a doctor, because a doctor has seen everything in their life. They've seen people's bodies and private things, so they won't judge you at all. Rather go speak out. A therapist as well. Do things you enjoy, and participate in activities, regular exercise. Journaling is what we said earlier. And journaling is not just journaling, but it's writing your feelings, name them, write what was my behavior due to this feeling, and how does it impact actually on my life if I behave in this manner? Does it make the depression worse, and so forth, or the anxiety worse? Set realistic goals for yourself, not unrealistic goals. Share feelings with somebody. Postpone major life decisions if you feel depressed, or if you're in that down state. Say you have bipolar mood disorder and you're in a manic state, or you're in a state of depression. Do not make major life decisions like getting married or getting divorced, or buying a house, or whatever is a major life decision. Don't be harsh on yourself. Don't judge yourself. Join support groups. There's support groups all over. People even start support groups. Do volunteer work. I've said journal. Normalize it for yourself. That there's so many people suffering, that people are so educated in terms of mental health nowadays that people don't judge. People rather support. You get the rare instance where people do judge, to be honest, but mostly I found that people want to support other people. But there's people also who say that, you're just pretending you don't have a mental health issue, but you do know that you have, and you do know who you can trust when you have to talk to somebody, your friends and so forth. If you don't, then there's always professionals. So yeah, I've come to the end. There's my contact details if you just feel you want to contact me and ask questions or anything. But I think what is most important, if you don't remember anything that I've spoken to you about today, is to look after yourself, prioritize yourself, and make the new normal for yourself normal, because nobody else is going to do it, because it's all our governments are dragging on with a new normal. Make it for yourself normal, and say to yourself, the new normal is me wearing a mask and accept it and wear the mask. The new normal is me, socializing outside with people, then do that. You make your own new normal for yourself, obviously in a safe manner. That will make you less anxious as well. I've come to the end. So if there's any questions, you may post it or you can ask it, and you can also email me or just phone me afterwards. Thank you very much.
Wow, wow. Thank you so much, Bonita, for that. Yes, I have asked people to post their questions on the chat box. So if you have any questions for Bonita, please post on the chat box. In the meantime, I will take the second half of this evening's presentation. I want to thank you so much for that amazing insight from the beautiful illustrative video we watched, all the way to, how, all these things actually start and how we can identify it and how we can, help ourselves and all of that. So we're really grateful for that sharing. Thank you so much. So while you're still on the call, and we'll see if we have questions from our audience, I will quickly start the second half of the presentation very quickly. So let me just share my screen there, if you give me a second. Now, one thing that Bonita said that really warms my heart is the fact that she said we need to take care of ourselves. The well-being is the initial thing. And one thing I want to share with you, we are from Life by Secret, and one thing we are privileged to have is the ability to take care of ourselves and actually do those things that protect our well-being, because we have this incredible plant-based organic supplements that it's literally used worldwide, and incredible results, and a lot of medical doctors are also using it as well. My husband is a gynecologist, and he in fact has sent me a note to share this evening with regards to why is this useful and what does it really do to help people with anxiety and depression, because this is someone who has a massive experience, over 30 years in medical practice as well. So like you heard from our previous speaker, Bonita, the different things that bring about this state. And so once you have all these different things going on within you, like she said, I don't want to repeat what she said, what happens is that your body releases some hormones, what my husband called cortisol. And so these are stress hormones, and other hormones are released into the body, adrenaline and all that. This goes into your blood and begin to affect your organs, particularly your heart. I'm now referring to anxiety. So it increases your heart rate, it makes you become irritable, and all the things that Bonita shared with you that happens when you are having an anxiety state and all. Now, where does this supplements come in? Because supplements are supposed to supplement our food and our lifestyle. We already know that due to our lifestyle, we are not able to live in a way that our body has everything it needs, or eat the kind of diet that gives us everything we need for our body, because most of us don't eat balanced diets, we skip meals, and then of course our foods are no longer organic and non-GMO. So with the proper health supplements, you're able to actually protect yourself and supplement your well-being of your body. So now with the booster and the recovery, this is something that has been used over and over again for anxiety. It's a help. Remember, we are not making medical claims. Do everything you do in conjunction with your doctor. Like I said, I'm speaking from my husband's guidance as well. And this is also from his experience of what we've used as well. So the booster and the recovery actually have plant-based organic substances that balance the hormones and balance the metabolic processes of the body. So what it does is that it then balances that, and particularly with the booster, produces melatonin, which helps to encourage deep sleep and rejuvenating sleep. So when you are able to sleep properly, like you also heard Bonita mention, not insomnia or not having good sleep, these are all the things that add to that irritability and feeling of anxiety. So a combination of these two things actually help to manage the production of this cortisol, these stress hormones in your body, because our supplements are actually absolutely effective and fantastic in managing or balancing your metabolic processes. So if you missed the part of taking care of yourself before you find yourself in this situation, you can have this, because you don't want to get to a situation where you are now taking hard drugs and you become addicted to them. With this, those drugs, most of them have side effects, like you heard the last speaker say, and then because you have those side effects, you stop all suddenly, And then that also makes you get worse. So you don't want to get to that state. You want to be able to at least, use something that is also plant-based, organic, absolutely no side effect, and sugar-free, dairy-free, what do you call it, soy-free, whatever. Absolutely, if you have allergies and stuff, it takes all that into consideration. But of course, once you find yourself already in the deep end, like our last speaker shared with us, you need to seek professional help and also work with them in conjunction with the supplements that I'm sharing with you. And for those who are already in depression, this is what we recommend for you, the recovery, the hydro effects. The molecular hydrogen has this absolutely incredible effect as well in rejuvenating the cells and balancing your metabolic processes and infusing you with natural organic energy. So that also helps to with your mental state, memory, and all of that. So there's a lot of information on this, which we can't go into detail, but trust me, if you are a guest on the call, you want to reach back to the person who invited you, and they can give you full details on how the makeup of these supplements. You can share with your medical practitioner if you want, and we have got incredible results from them. I can tell you that 100%, and also from my husband being a medical doctor. But going back to the main thing that she said, which is total well-being. From the age of 35, I started taking supplements. Of course, I was taking supplements off the shop shelf. And some of those supplements, most of them, they're not plant-based or organic. And we just take it, but it still helped me. Because when you have a very active life and you also have all manner of things going on, you want to protect yourself as well. Now, we know that these supplements help with your total well-being. We've got what we call the health made simple. So in order not to get yourself to the point where you begin to suffer that anxiety state that it becomes a problem. Everyone gets anxious. I was anxious before this call. I was having butterflies in my stomach. So you do get anxious, of course, but the anxiety we're talking about that is the one that becomes a medical problem, or something that actually affects your health and your total well-being. So in order for you not to get yourself to that state, you may want to try the Health Made Simple. And it consists of the booster, the recovery, and the greens. And what they do, basically, apart from all the extra things, is that balancing your metabolic processes and balancing your hormones. When that happens, it actually corrects and puts everything in play into your system, and also prevents, let me just use the word that the doctor said, he said, prevents it from having disease processes, and also prevents anxiety, and finally, of course, going into the deep end, which is depression. So let's start early to start now to take care of ourselves. Get in touch with the person who invited you, ask them about the supplements, take a look at it, share it with your medical practitioner if you want to be comfortable. We're not making any medical claims, or we're telling you what we know that has worked and is still working and is helping a lot of people. Well-being, taking care of your health, be it physical, mental, emotional, and all of that. Trust me, when your hormones are balanced, even for people who are going through their menstrual cycle, balancing your hormones is important. So it helps you with your mood swings at that time, because you have that balance in the system. So if you are a normal person, nothing is wrong with you. You're not experiencing any form of anxiety or depression or whatever. You want to place yourself on the Health Made Simple path, which is just the greens, the recovery, and the booster. And if you then have other things coming up, this likely should, keep you healthy, your entire system healthy, and help you not to fall into that process where you have all manner of diseases coming up, whether it's mental health, whether it's liver, kidney issues, and all of that. It just keeps you healthy as well. And of course, all the other things Bonita shared with us in terms of your lifestyle, you're engaging in activities and all that is a holistic, comes together. So it's not just taking the supplements and not doing all the others. We put all that together, but the health supplements are very, very useful and helpful for your total well-being. So if you are on this call and you know people who are already showing these signs that Bonita shared, people who are going through different types, or people who have very stressful lives, please reach out to them and let them have access to this, because I'm telling you, you can be saving a life. saving one life at a time, one day at a time. It's time for us to pay attention. Like I said in the beginning, if you saw this, this was my opening slide, pay attention, because nobody can imagine what will make an incredible young lady like this take her own life. You don't want to get to that point. You want to pay attention to your health, your total well-being, start with that, and then you don't even get to the point where you're suffering this very serious conditions of anxiety and depression, and eventually real mental psychiatric situations that we didn't go into this evening. So that is what we want to share with you for this evening. So if you are on this call, like I said, you want to go back to the person who invited you to the call, and also ask them that you'd like to know more about what we've just shared and all the different supplements we have talked about this evening, because trust me, these are things that you can really use to maintain optimal health for you and your entire family. It's not just for you and your family and your loved ones. So I want to thank you all so much for being here this evening. I'll just check the chat box if we have any questions. And I'll see, okay, I see Bonita is already taking the questions on the chat box. So I'll just see there's a question out here in case people are not able to read. It says, how do you get individuals who are suffering from anxiety and depression to have a healthy social life? And she says, Jada, if it is a clinically diagnosed person, I would advise checking the medication with a psychiatrist, and if it is the correct dosage, secondly, go for counseling or therapy. There are wonder therapy methods, but out there like EMDR, etc., that helps clients so much. Exercise is also important. And of course, with exercise, you want to have that boosted energy naturally, not by taking energy drinks and Red Bull and coffees and all. This is what the supplements give you as well. And it's important to as well create balance and healthy diets, like we have just said. So it is hard work, but with perseverance, one can live optimally. So beautiful response there. It's also constant work, but I have seen many people managing their depression and anxiety very, very well. And trust me, share the supplements with them. We've got incredible testimonials on the supplements, both from medical practitioners and individuals like ourselves. So you want to also be able to help people who need this as well. So how can family members best support a person who is in depression? So Bonitas, you can still come on. So instead of typing that, you can come on and just respond to that question. Thank you.
Okay, now. So the best way, firstly, is to create a safe environment where a person feels safe to disclose to you. So you need to make the person feel safe. So it relates to the type of relationship that you build with the person. And then if a person suffers from depression, listen to them without judgment. Don't pass judgment. And judgment it's words, negative wording. For example, if somebody says to you, I feel down, then you say, oh no, just get yourself, you're not together. Please just you will feel better tomorrow. I've showed you the black dog. A person doesn't just feel better if you say that. Just feel better tomorrow. No, let's just go for a jog. It doesn't work like that. So listen without judgment, or listen without giving an answer, and ask the person, how do you think I can help you? Rather of you maybe making a judgment on a person and the person just closes down and doesn't want to talk to you. Once you've reached that stage of trust within with an employee, I'm so used to talking with managers and their employees. you can, with a family member, you can climb mountains with him. So then they will open up to you. Sometimes though, your family member doesn't even know they're depressed. I have had clients where I've seen in hospital where they had suicide attempts where they themselves didn't even know why it happened. But that is mostly in the case of where you're medically depressed, and that's a diagnosis. But how can you support? You listen without judgment. Your response mustn't have judgment. Your response must be supportive. How can I help you? What do you need me to do for you? Do you need me to take you to a therapist? Do you need me to help you find a therapist? Do you need me to get your medication? Do you need me to take you to hospital? Rather supportive than any. Monica, do I answer you? I don't know if I'm answering you.
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I think the critical thing you mentioned there is asking the person, how can I help you? Most times we want to just talk to us. So it's good to have that listening ear and just, ask them, how can I be of help? I think that is the critical thing that you've mentioned here. I have personally been in a situation where I was by someone with that anxiety state, and I'm not sure that I did the right thing from what you said, because I wasn't asking, how can I help you? And I was saying to them, oh, don't worry, just, it's going to be okay. Just sleep, just let's go for a walk. Let's do this. And to be honest, that didn't really work. And, in retrospect, one sees that, what you've explained really, really is helpful. And of course, yeah, I think that's, like you said, thank you very much. So that is very, very helpful. So just being, non-judgmental and listening and just asking them. Thank you so much for that. So do we have any more questions for Bonita before we call it a night? We're all just 4 minutes away from our time. Okay.
I see there's a question from a Catherine to say we seldom know the simple symptoms of mental health. I think we went through the symptoms of mental health and therefore how to find help early. So if you identify the symptoms early, it's always good to, like I said, first go to your medical doctor to check if there's not a medical reason for the way you're feeling. Like I said, I've experienced it myself. I felt down, but there was nothing that made me feel down. I didn't have loss in the family, I'm fairly okay with COVID. I had COVID myself and so forth. So that doesn't make me feel down because I've accepted our situation. Then I went to the doctor to find out it's my thyroid. So first, check a medical situation, check your body to check, is there not a medical reason for this? Is it not my hormones? If you're a female, your estrogen levels and so forth. Yes, culturally, we do downplay our emotions and feelings, Catherine. That's why I'm constantly saying, identify your feelings and name it, give it a name. And there's nothing wrong with talking about feelings. In my culture, I know depression doesn't exist according to the people in my culture. But the more we speak about it, funny enough, the more people acknowledge it, to be honest with you. But if you need to find help early, there is a lot of companies that have employee wellness programs. Like where I work, I'm the head of the employee wellness program, where there is support. In South Africa, we have, for example, the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, SADAG. If you Google it, you will find it. They have free help. South Africa has a lot of resources where there's free support, in terms of if you can't afford it, but in workplace support also in South Africa is also great. Most companies nowadays have wellness programs. You must just go to your HR and actually find out if they do, and then you can get help for free. Usually you get 8 sessions from a therapist for free then. Yeah, so that's how you can go for help early.
Absolutely fantastic. So like Catherine also mentioned, Catherine is actually a medical doctor, so good to have her on the call as well. And we need this for both adults and kids alike, because in the beginning, Bonita also mentioned that we have a lot of young people going through the same thing, that it's supposed to be an adult sickness, everything is upside down now. So children are also going through that, especially with problems we have in the homes, not being grounded and stuff like that. So yeah, thank you very, very much. I think if we have no other questions, we have just 2 minutes before our time is up. I want to take this opportunity to give a very big thank you to our guest speaker, Bonita Mabota, all the way from Northwest South Africa, right? Were you tuning in?
It's the Northwest Province and Northwest University. We're very proud of our name to say we're not Northwestern in America, we're Northwest University in South
Africa. Absolutely. Yeah, so, okay, I think we have one last question popping in. We'll take that quickly because, like I said, this is a very important topic and we want everyone to go away with something. If a depressed family member agrees on seeing someone, but then when the time comes to go, they just refuse and shut down, what should a family member do?
Okay, I would figure out what makes the person to refuse or shut down. Usually what we suggest, if you going on a process of convincing a family member to go for therapy, and you're on that process, rather make the appointment when you're having that intervention. And then you can rather cancel the appointment. But if that person says, yes, I'm going to go to the therapist, then you take him on that day. But if the person now refuses, because counseling is always voluntary, but if a person is a danger to himself or to society due to the depression, then in South Africa, we have a process where you can involuntarily admit somebody in hospital, and most of our hospitals have these forms where you can complete it and involuntarily admit. It's not a nice process because the ambulance and sometimes the police have to assist you with it. But then a person gets admitted into hospital for approximately 72 hours where they get monitored. If they're not stabilized, then they get referred to a mental health facility where they can be assisted. But find out why the person is refusing. What is the reason? Is it maybe that the person at the moment is manic or not, himself at that moment? If that person not himself, then involuntary admission is usually the way to go. But if the person is refusing due to, misinformation, some myths that's out there or something, then take your time to get information and give it to the person, I would say. So there's various reasons why people just refuse and shut down.
Absolutely. Yeah. Also, you need to check the facility you're using. Sometimes they're just not comfortable with the place and the handling. So you may need to also look into changing that as well from my own previous experiences. So that's fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We're out of time. And like I was saying, thank you so much for this evening. We truly appreciate you and for volunteering your time and information and just sharing. This is a purely voluntary activity that we do for our Life by Sacred family. So I also want to just on a final note, remember the bottom line is optimal well-being. You want to walk towards taking care of yourself. That's the first thing she said. So let's pay attention, take care of yourself, and you're able to take care of others in your family and your community and your neighborhood. So, and pay attention so that we recognize the early signs if we're around people like that as well. Thank you so much. And yes, indeed, we'll be sharing the recording on the groups and on social media. Thank you and have a good night. Thank you very much, Bonita. Have a good evening.